Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be making a little bit of an end cap to a video I made 5 years ago now called Malazan First Impressions, Expectations versus Reality. This is going to be my Malazan Last Impressions. I don't have a script for this one or an outline. It's going to be a little bit more of a rambly video. I hope you enjoy that. This one is really going to be more targeted towards people who have read maybe a few books in the series and are unsure of whether or not you want to continue, or if you're curious about Malazan, want to know more about the series. These are the things that I wish I had known going into the series 5 years ago. If you're someone who has finished the series and you're curious about my spoilery thoughts, I made a ranking video a couple weeks ago where I go through all 10 books and talk about my thoughts on all of them, so go check that out. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you think of this more rambly, less structured type of video. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is how I got into Malazan. I finished my reread of Wheel of Time in 2020 during the pandemic. I was really into fantasy at the time, just, it was the pandemic. I was trying to escape my life and was chock full of anxiety, needed an outlet for all of that energy. I was Googling, as you do. I was just really in the mood for another huge fantasy series. Malazan was the one that kept coming up over and over. I think the Malazan Wheel of Time pipeline is so interesting because these series are both very long, have huge casts of characters, but that's really the only similarity. But at the same time, I feel like being a WoT fan does prime you to be a Malazan fan, depending on what you like about WoT. If you like the scope and the world building in a sort of meta way, and you're interested in how fantasy can be told through weird and various structures, like Wheel of Time does not have a traditional structure, in my opinion. It's so meandering, and personally, I love the meandering parts of Wheel of Time, and I feel like Malazan also has a very interesting and unique structure. And so from a storytelling perspective, both of these series are similar in that they have unique structures, if that makes sense. And if that appeals to you, then I think you would like Malazan as well. To go more deeper into the structure of Malazan, I would describe the way the series is set up and the way the story is told as 10 unique insular stories that all huddle under one thematic umbrella. It's not like one long chronological timeline. It's really more like 10 stories that all connect back to the same point. And some of them are like a little bit more connected. So you have like little bunches within that 10 that are like one story. I don't think I realized when I got into Malazan that it was set up this way. And by the 5th book, Midnight Tides, I was on board. I was enjoying it. I think it would have saved me a lot of frustration when I would start a new book and be met with a completely new cast of characters if I had known that going into it. That being said, all of these books are very much in series, so you should read them in publication order. I think that the structure is really interesting because it allows you to like step back from the series a lot more easily than if it were like one long timeline, because you can read Gardens of the Moon, step back, then come back to Deadhouse Gates, because you're gonna have to meet a new cast of characters anyways, so you might as well, take your time with the series and really go through it slowly. Towards the end of Malazan, I really started to binge through the books because I just wanted to finish it, and I kind of wish that I'd taken a little bit more time. Granted, it did take me 3 years, but I think I could have taken even more time and enjoyed that journey a little bit more. The other thing that sets apart Malazan from some of these other fantasy series is that I really see Malazan not necessarily as an escapist fantasy series, but a means of looking at the real world and dealing with some really difficult topics. I feel like Malazan is and isn't escapist fantasy because it does deal with a lot of very heavy topics, but at the same time, there are these moments of bravery and heroism that could only ever happen in a fantasy series, and that to me is escapist. Malazan is ultimately a very optimistic and hopeful series, even though it does go to these dark places. The ending is very optimistic and hopeful. I don't know if that's spoilers to say that, but in my opinion, that is how it is. To me, that is fundamentally escapist. I have this note to talk about what is Malazan about. It's so hard to say, but it's basically about this group of It's about these groups of disparate people coming together to answer for an injustice. Surrounding that, there is so much magic and crazy shit that happens that is unapologetically fantasy. It's a very philosophical series, but it's always philosophical in a way that it couldn't be without being fantasy. It's a very uniquely and essentially fantasy series. The timescale of Malazan is absolutely batshit insane. You will go from a book that is set in prehistoric times, like literally there are dinosaurs and it's hunter-gatherer society, to exploring a spaceship in the next book. The scale and scope of the world is huge. It's also a deeply humorous series. Erikson has one of the funniest, driest, most deadpan senses of humor in the genre. There were multiple times where I laughed out loud. Okay, maybe that's a lie. Maybe I didn't laugh out loud, but there were multiple times where I took like a screenshot of a line and sent it to my friends. Erikson is just really witty in a way that appeals to me. A common feeling I got when reading Malazan was that I was just like uncomfortable. Like I didn't know what was going on. I was confused. And a lot of the times it was because the characters themselves were confused and didn't know what was going on, or the characters were talking about an event that I didn't know happened and I was like, what are you guys talking about? What are you referring to? And in both cases, usually you find out what you're confused about sooner rather than later. Erikson just likes to sort of introduce things and then explain them afterwards. Something that will prime you for success with this series is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. One thing I did want to hit on in this video is because each book is so unique and different from each other, it's really impossible to say whether or not you will like the series, even if you've read 2 books, because Deadhouse Gates is not the same as Reaper's Gale, is not the same as Midnight Tides, is not even the same as Gardens of the Moon. I really want to say that if you've only read up to Deadhouse Gates or you've only read Gardens of the Moon, give Memories of Ice a try. It might be your favorite book of all time. Something that came out of my ranking video, literally no one had the same exact ranking, and sometimes they were literally flipped. Like someone's favorite book in the series was someone else's least favorite, and someone's least favorite was someone's middle of the pack. It was so all over the place, and I really feel like because each book is so unique, you're not going to know what you like when it comes to Malazan. So if you've read one book and you, at the very least, vibe with Erikson's writing style and you like his prose, give the rest of the series a try. The one thing that I will promise you is that the ending is so worth it. People talk a lot about the crippled god recontextualizing the entire series, and it's just impossible to explain why or how that happens unless you read the last book. Like, I promise, that is the one thing I will say, is that it's really worth it to get to the ending, because the more time I have and the more I marinate on the series, the more I like it. And now that I'm reading The God Is Not Willing, I can say that even more. Like, The God Is Not Willing is already changing how I view House of Chains and a certain character from that book. It's a very recursive series where the more you read, the more you reflect back on the earlier books and view them in a different light. This video is going to be all over the place in a way that my videos normally aren't, and I'm kind of uncomfortable with that, but maybe that's just leaning into the themes of Malazan and coming at you in a million different ways. This video isn't the most comprehensive about Malazan. I hope that this at least gave you a different sense of the series, maybe clarified whether or not the series is going to be for you. I do recommend going and watching my original video. I think I'm a little bit more thorough in that, but for now, these are my Malazan last impressions and things that I want people to know about the series. Another challenge with keeping this video spoiler-free is just that I want to talk about specific things, but it's hard to. I think you should all just read Malazan and come back and tell me what you think, because it's such a unique series. It's unapologetically fantasy, and it's beautifully written. If there's something I didn't cover in this video that you have specific questions about, leave a comment down below. I would love to answer. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Until then, take care.